The Trump's final numbers. The Biden-Harris record. Why do the Republicans always turn to the economy to try to win elections? There are no Republican presidents who left office with a higher employment number than any Democratic administration. Here's a brief look into Trump's administration when he left office. This is only a summary. Check it out. The statistics for the entirety of Donald Trump's time in office are all compiled. As we did for his predecessor 4 years ago, we present a final look at the numbers. The economy lost 2.7 million jobs. The unemployment rate increased by 1.7 percentage points to 6.4%. Paychecks grew faster than inflation. Average weekly earnings for all workers were up 8.4% after inflation. After-tax corporate profits went up, and the stock market set new records. The S&P 500 index rose 67.8%. The international trade deficit Trump promised to reduce went up. The U.S. trade deficit in goods and services in 2020 was the highest since 2008 and increased 36.3% from 2016. The number of people lacking health insurance rose by 3 million. The federal debt held by the public went up from $14.4 trillion to $21.6 trillion. Home prices rose 27.5%, and the homeownership rate increased 2.1 percentage points to 65.8%. Illegal immigration increased. Apprehensions at the southwest border rose 14.7% last year compared with 2016. Coal production declined 26.5%, and coal mining jobs dropped by 25%. Carbon emissions from energy consumption dropped 11.3%. Handgun production rose 12.5% last year compared with 2016, setting a new record. The murder rate last year rose to the highest level since 1997. Trump filled 1/3 of the Supreme Court, 30% of the appellate court seats, and 1/4 of district court seats. Is this the reason Trump lost the 2020 election? With this kind of record, does he really have a chance of winning the 2024 presidential election? Stripping the Affordable Care Act of all the benefits that hurt Black and brown people, as well as the latest overturning of the biggest concern to the women of the United States, Roe v. Wade. And now, the new concern and potential Republican Project Agenda 2025. Democracy is not the only thing the American people have to be concerned about. Now, here's Biden's record so far. Keep in mind, this is only a brief summary. President Joe Biden isn't running for re-election, but his record will still be on the ballot in the fall. Here we look at how the U.S. has performed under the Democratic president. The economy added 15.7 million jobs. The number is now 6.3 million, higher than before the pandemic. The unemployment rate dropped back and has stayed longer than at any time during the previous administration. Inflation surged to its highest level in over 40 years. Despite recent moderation, consumer prices are up more than 19% overall. Gasoline is up 46%. Average weekly earnings haven't kept pace with prices. After adjusting for inflation, real weekly earnings dropped 2.3%. The U.S. economy has continued to expand under Biden, growing at 2.8% in the second quarter estimate released July 25th, double the rate of growth in the first quarter. Violent crime has gone down. Figures from large cities show a 9.1% drop in murders from 2020 to 2023, and data from more than 200 cities show a continuing decline so far this year. Fewer people lack health insurance. The uninsured went down by 2.1 percentage points, or 6.6 million people. Crude oil production increased. The daily average for the most recent 12 months is 15.3% higher than the average in 2020, and it's higher than the pre-pandemic average. Apprehensions of those trying to cross the southern border illegally are up 273% for the 12 months ending in June, even as the monthly figure for June dropped significantly. The average number of refugees admitted per month is 117% higher than the average under his predecessor. Corporate profits are up 36%. The international trade deficit for goods and services went up 22.3%. The number of people receiving food stamps has decreased by more than 500,000. The debt held by the public has grown by 28.5%. The S&P 500 has increased 42.9%. If you want to dive further into this information, head over to factcheck.org. The Republican Party says everything Joe Biden did during office is Kamala Harris's. The president's decisions are only the president's decision and not the vice president. When the vice president takes office after serving as VP, the entire agenda changes. The only thing that is carried over is the system or culture of the party, but the VP comes in with his or her own agenda. After Trump and the Republican Party picked J.P. Vance, Kamala Harris has the advantage to take control of this element. With just 3 months to the presidency, Kamala Harris and the Democratic may be choosing a running mate soon. According to NBC, Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to reveal her running mate tomorrow, ahead of their evening rally in Philadelphia. 2 sources familiar with the plan told NBC News. She met with several top contenders in person yesterday. So, who is in the final runner-ups? Kelly, Shapiro, and Walz. What kind of relationship these 3 men have with we the people? Well, I guess it will be made clear to us in a day or so. But the question I want to ask here is, why did Joe Biden choose Kamala Harris to be his running mate? Of lately, all eyes are on Kamala Harris. She is building up morals amongst the Democratic Party areas where needed. What do you think? Are you prepared to make the decision when it comes to your political decision to shape your future and the future of your children and other offsprings? As the 2024 election moves forward, make every effort to acquire the information and knowledge to make the best decision for you and your family's future. Now, here's the answer to the question. It's in the recap. So, let's recap Now let's dive into this hot topic that's on everyone's minds: Biden versus Trump. Who did more during their time in office? Let's break down their accomplishments and see how they stack up against each other. First off, let's talk about Donald Trump. During his presidency, Trump was known for his bold moves and controversial actions. One of his major achievements was the passage of significant tax cuts aimed at boosting economic growth. He also focused heavily on deregulation, rolling back numerous federal regulations to encourage business development. And let's not forget his impact on the judiciary. Trump appointed a substantial number of conservative judges, reshaping the federal judiciary for years to come. On the international stage, Trump negotiated key trade deals with Mexico, Canada, and China, aiming to create a more favorable trade environment for the United States. However, his presidency wasn't without its challenges. His handling of the COVID-19 pandemic drew widespread criticism, and the events surrounding the January 6th Capitol attack left a lasting mark on his legacy. Now, let's shift the focus to Joe Biden. Biden's tenure has been characterized by his efforts to address pressing social and economic issues. Early in his presidency, he signed a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package, providing much-needed support to Americans during the pandemic. Additionally, Biden rejoined the Paris Agreement, signaling a renewed commitment to tackling climate change. Biden has also proposed significant investments in infrastructure, education, and clean energy. These initiatives aim to build a more sustainable and equitable future for the country. However, Biden has faced his own set of challenges. His handling of the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan was widely criticized, and rising inflation has put pressure on his administration. So, who did more? It's a tough call, and depends on what you value most in a presidency. Trump's tenure was marked by economic growth initiatives and conservative policies, whereas Biden has focused on pandemic relief, social justice, and environmental protection. Both presidents have faced significant obstacles and have had their share of achievements based on their agenda and not the people. Remember that. Their legacies will be debated for years to come, each shaping the American political landscape in different ways. It's up to you to decide whose accomplishments resonate more with your values and vision for the country's future you want to live in. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more engaging content. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.